Hi guys, this is Luke from the Run Hub. Today we have the Mizuno Wave Rider 25, soon to be released, celebrating 25 years of an incredibly successful shoe from the Mizuno lineup. It's seen a couple of major changes over the years, as most shoes do after 25, but the difference between the 24 and the 25 is one worth sticking around to listen for because it is a really nice one. We might talk about the outsole first, mind you, before we get into the rest of the shoe, because the outsole gives us a good idea as to what the rest of the shoe is actually doing. First of all, it is a full ground contact rubber outsole. Full ground contact just essentially meaning that you are going to have the midsole protected from back to front. So no one part of the soft midsole is going to be wearing away any faster than the rest. Now, the rubber outsole is a little thicker at the heel, as most shoes, most brands tend towards anyway, just because most people do tend to heel strike a little bit more, and even if you don't, when you fatigue, that can happen anyway. So it's just a bit thicker there, but that doesn't impact the rest of the shoe whatsoever. That rubber outsole just adds to the durability. In terms of the flex grooves, that's where one of the major changes between the 24 and the 25 first comes in. You have three main flex grooves going along the forefoot, midfoot to forefoot of the shoe. They cut off about 3/4 of the way in. In the 24, it's going the full way in because the kind of midsole foam being used in the 24 was a little denser around the midfoot and forefoot. So it needed the extra bit of flexibility in order to get you off without feeling like you're hitting the ground. In this guy, because the midsole is lighter, which we'll touch on in a second, they don't need to go all the way in, so they cut it off a little bit short. So you retain a nice bit of flexibility without feeling like you're relying on the shoe to do the work for you. And you feel that in the runs. Now, one of the major changes to the shoe comes into the midsole, which is now a full 100% Mizuno Enerzy foam. In the 24, they only had the Mizuno Enerzy under the heel, and then the rest was that little bit denser. They've made this guy 100% Mizuno Enerzy, which is lighter, softer, and more responsive than some of its predecessors. And you certainly feel that in the runs. I've taken it out a couple of times now. It has never felt like hitting the ground too hard, nor does it feel like that denser outsole is at all hitting the bottom of my foot. You only feel a really smooth ride. Now that comes in part down to the increased stack height. In this guy, it's about 4 mils more at the heel in the forefoot than in its predecessor, coming at about 36.24 in this shoe. It came out at 32.20 in the 24. Now the reason for that comes down to the fact that that midsole is going to be that bit softer. But that being the case, I prefer a shoe with a slightly smaller stack height. I prefer a little bit something firmer beneath my foot. I never had an issue with the stack height in this because the retaining flexibility in the forefoot and that soft but responsive, slightly bouncy midsole, it keeps up with what you're looking to do. You're never being overwhelmed by it. You're only getting a really nice smooth ride each and every time. So again, I've taken it out on a couple of easy runs, walked it around, dashed to the bus in it, and each and every time you feel a little bit of extra bounce at the heel, all the way to the forefoot, and a nice little push off at the end. Of course, they still use the usual Mizuno wave plate for a nice bit of shock absorption, nice bit of balance in the shoe, and of course that's then flanked by the Mizuno Enerzy on both sides. In terms of the upper, you have a heel counter at the heel, so that's just a bit of plastic wrapping around the heel there, just to retain security but also comfort. It's not overwhelmingly padded. That's not a drawback. It feels secure, it is comfortable, the shoe is wrapping around there. Again, nice bit of a gusseted tongue just around the midfoot there, so essentially it's just wrapping down on the medial and lateral sides of the shoe to hold down the foot, the instep. Again, not excessively padded, it's just there to wrap around, nice bit of added security. And as always with Mizuno, slightly wider toe box makes them super accommodating. Engineered upper mesh as well, so it's light, it's flexible, but it's incredibly durable as well. It's not a shoe to fall apart, basically. Again, taking it out a couple of times, I don't really have much bad things to say about this shoe. Again, I tend towards things with slightly lower stack height, slightly lower offsets. This has a 12mm offset. But again, I never had an issue because that full Mizuno Enerzy midsole is just encouraging a smoother ride each and every time. It's comfortable, it's lightweight, and it can do quite a bit. It's right up there with some of the fan favorites from Brooks, New Balance, Nike, whatever you like. This is still one worth comparing them to and one worth checking out when it comes out late May, early June. Thanks very much, guys. Any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with us, and I'll talk to you again soon.